Okay, let's dive in. May 7th, 2025. That date. It might just sound like another day, but
Yeah.
if you're planning on flying domestically or visiting certain federal spots after that, it's a big one.
Mm, a very big one.
Yeah, so this deep dive, we're really focusing on getting you ready for the real ID enforcement. We've looked at, a lot of stuff, government websites, news reports, even some online chatter.
Right, trying to boil it all down.
Exactly. Cut through the noise so you know what you need to know about real ID without getting totally overwhelmed.
And it's interesting, isn't it? This isn't just some new ID card design. It really stems from the 9/11 Commission aiming to boost security.
Right. The Real ID Act, back in 2005.
Yeah, 2005. It basically just sets a higher federal standard for state IDs, for certain federal uses. It's subtle but important.
And the visual clue. People should look for the star, right?
That's the one. Usually in the top right corner of the license or ID card, if you see that star, you're probably looking at a real ID.
Okay. So our mission today really is to make sure you, our listener, gets a clear picture. Who needs this thing? How do you actually get one? What are the common, trip-ups people run into?
And what other options are out there if you don't get one or can't?
Exactly. So let's start with the absolute basics. Who actually needs to get a real ID?
Okay, so in a nutshell, it's primarily for U.S. residents, 18 and older, who plan to use their state-issued ID to board commercial flights within the U.S. starting May 7th, 2025.
Okay, domestic flights.
Right. And also, if you need to get into certain federal facilities like military bases or maybe some secure federal buildings that require ID.
But just as important, who doesn't need one? Let's
Yeah.
clarify that too so people aren't rushing off unnecessarily.
Good point, yeah. You don't need a real ID for voting. Definitely not.
Keep going.
Or generally just for driving your car. Your standard license is still fine for that.
Right.
Also not needed for entering federal courthouses for jury duty or other proceedings, or for applying for or receiving federal benefits, think Social Security, VA benefits, stuff like that.
So for a lot of day-to-day stuff, the old ID is fine. But for flying domestically, it's a must-have after that date, unless you have an alternative.
Precisely.
Okay, so why? Why this big security push? You mentioned 9/11.
Yeah, exactly. The Real ID Act was a direct federal response to security gaps identified after the 9/11 attacks, specifically concerning how easy it was maybe to get fraudulent state IDs.
I see.
Professor John D. Woodward Jr., he's a former CIA officer, he pointed out that the act essentially forced states to adopt much tougher standards, higher requirements for verifying who you are when you apply, and also building more anti-counterfeiting tech into the cards themselves.
That makes sense. It adds context.
Yeah.
So, okay, someone listening decides, yep, I need one for my travel plans. What's the process like? Can they just hop online?
That's a critical point, and definitely no. You must apply for your first Real ID in person.
In person, okay.
Yeah. At your state's DMV, or whatever they call it, where you live. Some states have different names. Registry of Motor Vehicles in Massachusetts, Secretary of State's office in Illinois. Sometimes AAA offices might handle it too, like an MA. But the key is, you gotta show up.
All right. And what do you need to bring? Is it just your old license? Or is it more involved?
It's definitely more involved than just renewing your license. The specifics can differ a bit state by state, which is super important to remember.
Always check the local DMV website first.
Absolutely. But generally, you're looking at needing documents in four main categories. First, proof of identity,
Okay, like what?
like an original U.S. birth certificate or a certified copy. A valid U.S. passport works too. Or if you're not a citizen, maybe a permanent resident card, certificate of citizenship, that sort of thing. Original or certified copy is key.
Got it. Originals. What's next?
Second category, proof of your social security number. Your actual social security card is best. But a W-2 form usually works. Or sometimes a recent tax return, as long as it shows the full number. Oh, and if you use a tax form, definitely black out the financial figures. They don't need that.
Good tip. Black out the money stuff. All right, what about proving where you live?
Right, proof of residency. This one usually needs two different documents.
Two. Yep.
Yeah, two separate proofs. Things like utility bills or common gas, electric, water. Some states are picky about how recent they need to be, maybe within 90 days, and sometimes they want the paper copy, not just a printout from online.
Okay. What else counts for residency?
A lease agreement, mortgage statement, bank statement, vehicle registration card, maybe a tax return again. Sometimes even official mail like school documents or medical bills. We saw some online discussion mentioning even the envelope ballot came in for voter registration proof in one state.
Interesting. But like you said, check the official source.
Always. Relying on forum posts can be risky. One person mentioned getting a temporary paper slip from the DMV that was way less detailed than the website info. So yeah, the DMV website is your best bet for the exact list.
Okay. Identity, SSN, 2 for residency. What was the last one?
The last one is usually proof of signature. This one's often easier, like a credit card, debit card, maybe a canceled check, or even your current driver's license if it has your signature.
Okay, that sounds like a lot to gather. It seems easy to mess something up. What are the common mistakes people make?
Oh, definitely. A big one is just not checking if their current ID already is a real ID. Look for that star. If it's there, you're done. No need to go through all this again.
Right. Check first. Save yourself the trip.
Exactly. Another huge one, not bringing all the required documents or bringing photocopies instead of originals or certified copies.
I can imagine getting turned away for that.
It happens all the time, according to reports. You wait in line, get to the counter, and oops, missing one thing. Then you got to make another appointment. And with the deadline getting closer, those appointments might get scarce. Making a checklist from the DMV site is crucial.
Absolutely. What else trips people up?
Mismatched names. This is a biggie. If the name on your birth certificate is different from your current license, maybe due to marriage or divorce, you must bring the legal name change documents. Marriage certificate, divorce decree, court order, whatever officially links the names.
Okay, that's critical. All names need to line up or have proof.
Yep. And related to that, using nicknames, don't use Bob if your birth certificate says Robert. Everything has to be your full legal name.
Right. Stick to the legal name.
Also, we mentioned redacting financial info on tax forms, but yeah, forgetting to redact could be an issue. And using the wrong kind of birth certificate. You need the official one from the state or county health department, usually with a raised seal, not the cute souvenir one from the hospital.
Okay, no hospital certificates. Got it.
And maybe the biggest mistake overall, waiting until the last minute. Seriously, don't procrastinate. Lines are already getting longer. Expect delays as May 7th looms.
Yeah, that seems like solid advice. Beat the rush if you can. Oh, and clarifying again, you don't need this for just driving, right?
Correct. Your standard license is still perfectly fine for driving privileges. Real ID is only needed for those specific federal purposes, like flying.
Okay, so let's say someone does miss the deadline or maybe decides they don't want to get a real ID. Are they grounded? What else works for getting on a plane?
Nope, not totally grounded. There are definitely alternatives. The most obvious one is a valid U.S. passport.
Okay, a passport works.
Yes, or a U.S. passport card. That's acceptable too. Also, if you have one of those DHS Trusted Traveler cards like Global Entry, SES, or Century, those work.
Ah, the Trusted Traveler programs. Good to know.
Yep. And a valid U.S. military ID is also accepted. Plus, some states, like Michigan, Minnesota, Washington, Vermont, they offer an enhanced driver's license, or EDL. It doesn't have the star, but it meets the federal requirements and works for domestic flights and certain land-sea border crossings.
So there are options, but if you show up on May 7th, 2025, or after, with just your old standard driver's license.
TSA won't let you through the security checkpoint to board your flight.
Okay.
And same for trying to enter those federal facilities or military bases that require real ID compliant identification. Access denied.
Sounds like they mean business with the enforcement.
It appears so. While there was talk maybe of phasing it in, the current messaging seems to point towards enforcement starting pretty firmly on that date. Best to assume it will be strict.
All right. Now, you mentioned these real IDs have better security features. Can you briefly touch on what makes them more secure?
Sure, the regulations require specific document security features. The goal is to make them much harder to forge or counterfeit, build confidence they're real, and help inspectors spot fakes. And these features can't be easily copied with, regular printers or scanners. They're built in. There are generally 3 levels.
Levels?
Yeah, level 1 features are things you can easily see or feel for quick checks. Level 2 needs trained inspectors, maybe using simple tools like a magnifying glass or UV light. Level 3 involves forensic level examination for suspected fraud.
So multiple layers of protection.
Exactly. States also have to prove to the Department of Homeland Security that their card designs are resistant to fraud. It's a whole system designed to be more robust.
Makes sense. A standardized, more secure system.
That's the idea.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot. Let's try to boil this down again. What are the absolute must-remember takeaways for everyone listening?
Okay, number 1, the date. May 7th, 2025. That's the enforcement deadline for using real ID for domestic flights and certain federal sites.
Got it. Deadline.
Number 2, know if you need one. Primarily if you fly domestically using your state ID or access those specific federal locations.
Right. Check your own situation.
Number 3, documentation is key. Get the right original or certified documents for identity, social security number, and 2 for residency. Check your state's exact list.
Check the list. Get originals.
Number 4, avoid common mistakes. Check if you already have one, bring everything, make sure names match, or bring proof of change. Use your full legal name, don't use hospital birth certificates, and don't wait.
Don't wait. Okay.
And finally, number 5, remember there are alternatives. Passports, passport cards, trusted traveler cards, military IDs, EDLs in some states. You have options.
Excellent summary. So, after listening to all this, what's the single most important next step someone should take?
Go directly to your state's official DMV website, or whatever agency handles licenses in your state. That is the definitive source for requirements, appointments, everything you need. Don't rely on secondhand info. Go straight to the source.
Perfect advice.
Okay.
So, as we wrap up, it does make you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With these new, stricter, more standardized federal ID requirements coming into play,
Yeah.
how might this change how we think about identity and access more broadly?
Yeah.
Could we see similar moves towards standardized ID in other parts of our lives down the road, beyond just getting on a plane?
It's an interesting thought. The balance between security, privacy, and convenience. It's always shifting.
Definitely something to keep an eye on, something to ponder. All right, that's our deep dive for today. Till next time, keep exploring.